for being here. Certainly, it's welcome to see you all. And we certainly have issues in our country facing that concern every single one of you, and we appreciate your hard work. But certainly top of mind has been the threat of the 25% tariffs from President-elect Donald Trump and the impact, or certainly related to the border security. So I would like to speak with Ms. O'Gorman on your department and the challenges that you're facing, in particular in between ports of entry. What efforts have you made in the last week to ensure that there's more surveillance beyond the ports of entry themselves?
So I can happily speak to the efforts of the CBSA when it comes to port security, and I'll say a few words and then defer to my colleague, the Commissioner of the RCMP, who has the mandate between the ports. But just to say, we work closely every day with our U.S. counterparts in terms of securing our shared border, and we exchange information with them. Operationally, we are embedded in their targeting centers, and we are awaiting an embedded officer from the CBP to come and join our targeting center in the near future. We speak regularly at the head of agency level, but more importantly, every day at the officer level. So I have recently, probably a year ago now, appointed an executive director, operational officer responsible for combating firearms, and a separate executive director responsible for combating opioids.
Thank you. If I may, the union president of the Customs and Immigration Union has mentioned that some of the frustrations for policing the border with our frontline officers is, just to quote him, he said that there is a situation is so silly, to quote him now, that if an officer, if they're sitting at one of the workplaces and they see someone crossing just off to where the port is, they have to call the RCMP. So it seems that there is frustration with our border officers that they literally are seeing someone go just right out of their jurisdiction and they can't apprehend them. Can you comment on those challenges?
Sure. I will say that that has never been raised to my attention. And so this was new information to me when I read it in the paper. And so as we meet with our officers at land and air ports of entry and marine ports, we often talk about the challenges, talk about how we can better support their work, move resources around to face the changing threats that they're seeing. It hasn't been raised to my attention. If that is an issue, happy to undertake the work that it would take to address any legislative constraints. That would obviously be up to Parliament to make any final determination there. So open to anything that makes us more effective at the border, but this is not something that I've...
Thank you, Ms. O'Gorman. Well, you had mentioned earlier that you are aware, of course, that the jurisdiction for CBSA is not in between the ports. That's the RCMP. So you are aware of those limitations, of course, and certainly we've seen reports from the U.S. Border Patrol about well over 20,000 people crossing between those ports of entry into the United States. So certainly this is an issue that is known in that regard. So to the Commissioner of the RCMP in particular, you've taken, of course, the RCMP has the responsibility between ports of entry. I have concerns about the limitation of our staffing numbers to police 9,000 kilometers of border without the CBSA supporting those efforts between the ports. I believe there's recently been an announcement that 25% of Atlantic Canada RCMP officers will be moved to the border. Is that a correct assessment of that announcement or of that media report?
I don't recall positioning myself for the organization at 25%. Deputy Commissioner Flynn might have, but the important thing is to understand is we do have that surge capacity within the organization. We saw it in events with Roxham Road, where we mobilized our folks from Montreal, some investigation teams, to the border, and now these people have gone back to the respective units, and actually the people who are assigned to the border are actually covering more of the border now that nobody's coming into Roxham Road, so we can spread those people apart.
Appreciate that very much, and certainly the RCMP officers and our border officers work very, very hard and very grateful for their courage and dedication to the job. My concern is that the RCMP is facing staffing issues across the country, particularly in rural and northern Canada. So if the idea is to pull from those resources, would that not endanger, say, rural Manitoba, which I know my home province does face RCMP staffing issues, and we do have border crossers between our many kilometers between our ports of entry in that regard. So wouldn't there be a concern for those local communities if those RCMP resources were pulled and put in between the ports?
It's well known the staffing issues that we're addressing right now. I would like to highlight the fact that I've been working closely with public safety and the minister to acquire new technology to reduce the impact on resources, so we can rely more on technology and reduce. I'm not going to say reduce the footprint, but use human resources accordingly to the latest technology that we have for the border.
Thank you, Ms. O'Gorman. Will there be more boots on the ground in the next 6 weeks at the border? More officers to help these efforts?
So will we be?
Correct.
So we're always, like I said, moving our resources around to where the threats are. So we have the ability to staff according to volumes, which does give us a flexibility. And there's an impact every time we move people around, potentially in terms of wait times, but we have established wait time commitments, and we can change those if the threat increases. So I'm not worried about our ability to move people around, and in fact, we're actively doing that right now, looking at potential risks relating to a northern border surge. We haven't seen those numbers increase at all at the ports of entry, but we have people who would be reassigned from where they are to be moved, and we do that every summer. So we do that on a regular basis.